Namaskar and welcome to day 6 of our Dharmamasa Satsang. Lakshminatha Samarambham Nathayamuna Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Yo Nityamachyuta Padambuja Yukma Rukma Vyamohatastaditarani Trinaya Mene Asmadgurur Bhagavatosya Dayaika Sindho Ramanujasya Charanam Sharanam Prapadye आपदामपहर्तारं दातारं सर्वसम्पदां लोकाभिरामं श्रीरामं भूयो भूयो नमाम्यहम् यत्र यत्र रघुनाथकीर्तनं तत्र तत्र कृतमस्तकाञ्जलिं बाष्पवारि परिपूर्णलोचनं मारुतिं नमत राक्षसान्तकम् कूजन्तं राम रामेति मधुरं मधुराक्षरम् आरुह्य कविताशाखां वन्दे वाल्मीकिकोकिलम् वेदवेद्ये परिपुंसि जाते दशरथात्मजे वेदप्राचेत सादासीद् साक्षात् रामायणात्मना. So with prayers at the lotus feet of Lord Rama and Acharyas, let us start today's topic. Yesterday we talked about how Vishwamitra came and asked for Rama to be sent with him, and how finally Dasharatha agreed and let Rama and Lakshmana go with Rishi Vishwamitra. So now, as they start on their journey and they're walking past they cross the city of Ayodhya, and then they keep walking because they have to reach this place called Siddhashrama, which is where Rishi Vishwamitra's ashrama is. So as they keep walking and going, Vishwamitra Rishi first teaches these two children, Rama and Lakshmana, he teaches them the mantras called as Bala and Ati Bala mantras. And he says that I'm imparting this knowledge to you, and by chanting these mantras, you will be able to prevent whatever effects of thirst, hunger, sleep, and fatigue which come normally to people. So by chanting these mantras, you will be able to overcome the effects of these. That means if there is a situation where you have to be on your vigil continuously and there is no scope for you to eat and take rest and all those things, then by the chanting of these mantras, it will be possible to make sure that you are not troubled by things, by bodily things like thirst and hunger and tiredness and sleep and all that. So that will give a lot of power to the person who receives that, who knows that mantra. So like this, he endows them with that knowledge first. Then as they keep walking, he keeps telling them stories about all the different places, like they're passing through some place, they pass near some mountain, they pass by many different rivers. So he keeps telling them those stories, and through that, he's educating them about so many more things. Now, that first night they spend in one place, and then the next morning, when it is starting to become dawn, Rama and Lakshmana are still sleeping, because after all they are just 12-year-old children. So at that point of time, Vishwamitra gently he wakes up Lord Rama. And what is it that he chants to wake up Rama? He says, Kausalya Supraja Rama Purva Sandhya Pravartate Uttishta Narashardula Kartavyam Daivamanhikam. So, what is the meaning of this shloka? How fortunate is Kausalya to beget you, Rama, as her son. O tigerly man, O best among the men, get up. And the sun is rising in the east, and it is time for all the duties, all the karmas that we have to perform towards the gods. It is time for us to perform that. So wake up, he says. Here, the acharyas actually explain that when as Vishwamitra looks at this sleeping form of Rama, he's carried away by the beauty of that form. And he just goes on for some time. Actually, he does not proceed forward with what he has to say. He just keeps glancing at that beautiful form of the Lord, and he keeps saying, Kausalya Supraja, Kausalya Supraja, right? Because he's so taken away. What is it that he's saying? Why is he saying something like this? Because he says, how great must be that woman who has borne you, the Lord of the entire universe, as her son itself. So she is indeed very fortunate. She is so fortunate that you have been born as her son. So what great tapascharya she must have done, what great fortune she has, that you have come as her son. Now, if you are familiar, then this shloka actually, we hear it almost every day um, when we listen to the Venkateshwara Suprabhata, right? If I chant it in that tone, you will probably remember that tone which has been made immortal by M.S. Subbalakshmi, right? She says, Kausalya Supraja Rama Purva Sandhya Pravartate Uttishta Narashardula Kartavyam Daivamanhikam, isn't it? So this actually, this shloka was composed by Valmiki Rishi in his Ramayana, and it is that Vishwamitra is saying this shloka and waking up Rama with that. That itself has been made as the very first shloka of the Venkateshwara Suprabhata. Now here, Acharyas give one more meaning to why Vishwamitra, what is the deeper meaning of what he is telling by saying, wake up, O Rama. So if we look at the literal meaning, it means that he is waking up Rama to perform his tasks. That because we are human beings, we have all these nitya karmas to be done as duties towards the gods, and we have to wake up and do them in the early morning hours, right? So we need to have our bath, we need to do the Sandhya Vandana, we need to do all other rituals which are to propitiate the gods. So it appears as though he is telling this. But the Acharyas say here that there's a deeper meaning. It can also be construed as if Vishwamitra Rishi is trying to, now the Lord has come in this human form as Rama. So on the one hand, in that human form, it is his role to do that which an ideal human being will do, so that he is a role model for the rest of society to follow. So that is one reason why he is trying to wake up Rama and saying, get up and we have to do all these duties. There is also the other aspect that Rama is the human form of Lord Sriman Narayana. So it can be also seen that Vishwamitra is trying to tell him that now is going to be the start of the purpose of this avatara that you have taken. O Rama, wake up, and whatever you promised to the deities, to the devatas, you promised Brahma, Indra, and the other devatas when they came to you in the Kshirabdi, and you promised them that you are going to start doing samhara of the Rakshasas. So now it is time for you to wake up from this what role that you have taken, and start doing those activities which you promised to the devatas. It could be like that also. Now we notice here that in this shloka, Vishwamitra Rishi is waking up Rama. Why is he not waking up Lakshmana? Because Rama and Lakshmana are both together, and we know they are very close. So definitely, if they are sleeping, then Lakshmana would have been sleeping right next to Rama, isn't it? Now, why is Rishi only waking up Rama? Why he is not waking up Lakshmana? So here there is another very beautiful meaning which is given by some acharyas, where they say that actually when Kausalya saw Rama sleeping, Rama was not sleeping on the bed of darba grass or just on the floor in that forest. Where was Rama sleeping? We know that Lakshmana is the avatara of Adishesha, the serpent on whom the Lord always lies and reclines, whether he is in Sri Vaikuntha or he is in the Kshirabdi. So Lakshmana had taken that form again. He was like Adishesha. And on that Adishesha, Rama was sleeping. And therefore, there is no question of waking up Lakshmana, because this was the divine form that Vishwamitra saw. He saw Lakshmana as Adishesha, and he saw Rama as Sriman Narayana resting on that Adishesha. And therefore, there was no need for him to wake up Lakshmana separately. Right? So this is a beautiful explanation that our acharyas give here. Okay, now after this, Rama and Lakshmana woke up and they performed all the duties and all that. Then they walked through further some more distance. Finally, they reached this place which is inhabited by Tataka. And that is the area where it's a very dense forest. It had actually been a very beautiful place. And there was this Yakshini called, this Tataka was a Yakshini. But she then was cursed by Agastya Muni because of some wrong deeds that they did, and she became a Ghora Rakshasi. And she was tormenting. That whole place had become such that there was no capability for any life to survive there. So it had become a very dense forest, and nobody entered that forest, and nothing could survive in that forest because this Tataka would go on eating anything and everything that came to her, even human beings. She was like a cannibal. Not only would she kill the human beings, she would eat them. So she had gone on a rampage. She was on the path of destroying anything and everything in that place. And she was along with her sons. Her sons were Maricha and Subahu. So they had created a lot of chaos in that area. They were not allowing any of the rishis to perform their yajnas. They were torturing them. They would catch hold of anybody whom they found, and they would eat up those people. So it was a total havoc that they had wreaked in that area. And therefore, now is the time for this Tataka to be killed. So as they reach that place, there is a loud sound that they hear. They come to know who is this Tataka, and then Vishwamitra instructs Rama that, "Oh Rama, she is Tataka. It is your duty. You have to protect your people from her, wrongdoings. So it is time for you to kill her." Now, Rama has to obey Vishwamitra. So he lifts up his bow. But then in his mind, there is a doubt. He feels that she is a woman after all. And the Shastras say we should not kill women. So is it okay on my part to kill this Tataka? He wonders. So when he asks this, then Vishwamitra says, "Don't feel that she is a woman or anything. You see what grave damage she has done here, how much she is troubling and torturing all people. She is a menace to society, and therefore you have to, as a Raja, you have to put an end to this menace. And it does not matter that she is a woman, because she is an evildoer. She is someone who creates a lot of nuisance for people, and she's taking lives, and she's not allowing the yajna karyas to go on. So you have to put an end to her," he says. So Rama starts, okay, he says, "Okay, I will agree to your, I will obey your order." And he and Lakshmana start shooting arrows. But still at first, they are trying to take her lightly. They shoot arrows to cut off her arms or to cut off her nose and things like that. But she is fighting back very strongly. So finally, again, Vishwamitra says that, "Rama, as you are fighting now, the evening hour is approaching. If it becomes dark, this Tataka is going to get 100 times more strength. So it is now high time that you should kill her." And with that order of Vishwamitra, finally Rama shoots an arrow at her heart and kills her. So she falls to the ground and she dies. And the minute she falls to the ground and dies, this entire forest gets back its original glorious form. So that is the way in which this Tataka is killed. Okay. So this is what we had to cover the topic for today. Now in this, what are some of the aspects that we can learn from this? In that shloka, when we said that Vishwamitra Rishi is singing Kausalya Supraja Rama, right? Rama is the son of Kausalya. He is also the son of Dasharatha, isn't it? In fact, it was Dasharatha who performed the Putra Kameshti Yaga. Then why is Vishwamitra not saying Dasharatha Supraja Rama? Why is he saying Kausalya Supraja Rama? Oh, fortunate child of Kausalya. Why is he saying like this? So this usage of the mother's name highlights yet again to us that the mother plays a very vital role. She has a very important role to play in the in the upbringing of her children. So all our shastras always give a lot of respect to the mother, isn't it? When we are telling who all have to be respected, you must have heard people telling, they will say Matra Devo Bhava, Pitra Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Atiti Devo Bhava. Like that, when we tell, there also you see it is Mata who comes first, right? There is another shloka where we praise Lord Rama, saying, "He is my mother, he is my father, everything." Mata Ramo Matpita Ramachandraha. Like that. In that shloka also, the first role is that of the mother. So everywhere, the role of the mother is very important. And to highlight that, Vishwamitra Rishi says that Kausalya Supraja Rama. So if we are mothers who are listening to this talk, then we must realize that what we do with our children, how we behave with them, what we teach them, what moral concepts we impart to them, that is going to be the most important factor that shapes the way the child is going to grow up. So we have to be aware of this responsibility and act accordingly, right? Okay. The second point we can learn here is that we see that when Vishwamitra Rishi tells Rama that you have to kill Tataka, Rama has a dilemma. He's thinking that whatever he has studied so far under Vasishta Guru, he has learned in the Shastras that everywhere it is told it is wrong to kill a woman. It is adharma to kill a woman. Now here, Vishwamitra is telling him to kill the woman. Now, when they left Ayodhya, Dasharath Raja told Rama that now onwards, Vishwamitra is your guru. He is everything for you. And just as you would obey me and your mothers, you have to obey whatever Vishwamitra tells. So now there is Dvandva for Rama. Should he obey Vishwamitra? Now Vishwamitra is giving an instruction which appears to be against the Shastras. So should he follow what Rishi is telling or should he not follow that? He has a dilemma. And that is why he asks the question to Vishwamitra. So the Rishi tells him that the concept is that, yes, it is not correct to kill a woman as per the Shastras. But if that woman is an evildoer, if there is evil going on, then it does not matter whether the person doing that evil is a male or a female. She has a female body, that is fine. But what she is doing is adharma. So if there is adharma, it does not matter in what form that adharma is there. It is the role of the Raja to protect his people, to protect his praja from any kind of adharma. So in fact, if we say that whatever in detail Krishna told in the Bhagavad Gita, where he tried to convince Arjuna, what was Arjuna's doubt there? He was wondering that how can I kill all these people? They are my own relatives. How can I kill them? Will I not get the sin of having killed them? Will I not go to Naraka for that? That was Arjuna's doubt. And Krishna explained in detail through the 18 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita that it does not matter what the body of those people is. It is adharma that you are fighting against, and as a Kshatriya, it is your duty to fight against the adharma in whatever form it may be. If they are your family members, then so be it. So, whatever Krishna told there in very great detail in the Bhagavad Gita, here Rishi Vishwamitra has very concisely told. And Rama followed because Rama realized that following what his father has told, that is important. His father told him, do whatever Vishwamitra instructs. And therefore, with total surrender to the Guru, with complete Agnya Palan, attitude, he did what the Rishi instructed. So that is what we learn from today's episode. So with this, we have come to the end of our topic for today. Let us offer gratitude, Kritagnyata, at the lotus feet of Sri Rama and the Guru for giving us the ability to talk of these things, to hear of these things. And let us pray for their grace and blessings to always be on us. मङ्गलं कोसलेन्द्राय महनीय गुणाब्धये चक्रवर्तितनूजाय सार्वभौमाय मङ्गलम् वेदवेदान्तवेद्याय मेघश्यामलमूर्तये पुंसां मोहनरूपाय पुण्यश्लोकाय मङ्गलम् पितृभक्ताय सततं भ्रातृभिः सह सीतया नन्दिताखिललोकाय रामभद्राय मङ्गलम् श्रीमते रघुवीराय सेतुलङ्घितसिन्धवे जितराक्षसराजाय रणधीराय मङ्गलम् मङ्गलाशासनपरैर्मदाचार्यपुरोगमैः सर्वैश्च पूर्वैराचार्यैः सत्कृतायास्तु मङ्गलम्. Namaskar, and we will meet again tomorrow with yet another topic. Thank you.